I've been married for 22 years, and most people don't go that far these days. I mean, it's just like doesn't happen. But I just found that and you're gonna get ups and downs. You're gonna get times when you want to strangle each other, really. And that's just going to happen. And it doesn't matter who the other person is. You might think, if I find somebody else, that's bullshit. You're going to go through the same old shit with anybody, right? You have to adapt, and you have to give and take and receive and give and all this kind of stuff. So you might as well just stay where you're at and try and figure it out. You know what I mean? And every time that's happened, where you go through like a dry spell or and it happens in 22 years quite a bit, but when you come out the other side of it, man, stuff is just like, it just makes you better at it. It's just experience, you know. I think people throw in the towel too early on relationships. My daughter's in her 20s, and I got two 20-year-old sons, and another one who's about to go to college. He's 18. I don't know, we have a good time. I get on with them okay. I just had my son out the other day on the back of my motorcycle flying around, and he had a blast, you know. He said, "Can I drive?" I said, "You don't have a license, you have to stay on the back." So I took him for a really fast ride through some of the canyons. He got a buzz out of that. I don't know. The thing that really made it good for him was that he didn't know whether I was competent or not. So that he had a sense of like adrenaline, you know, that I might drop us both into the gravel, you know. The amazing thing about watching and working with children is the simplicity with which they approach what they do and execute it very well. And it's just a lesson that we should all take from it, that we should kind of stay as children in a sense creatively, because there's far less complicated, obstacles on them that, as you become an adult, and the cares and all the evolutionary scars of life get on you, that there's just a lot of garbage that you have to strip away in order to get back to that sort of simplicity that they simply don't have. They're working on their own case, but and it's almost like I recognize that when I'm working with very young performers, and I'm kind of jealous of it, the fact that they don't have to eradicate a lot of baggage and just a lot of stuff. They don't have to strip it all down. They're just ready to go. And they just walk up to it honestly and innocently, you know. Whereas we all second guess and get all adult with it, and it's like kind of a stumbling block sometimes. These questions of, is there something out there? Is there something greater than me? Is there, in whatever form you happen to think of it, and maybe many different forms, if it's Martians or angels or whatever it is, it's a question that most of us have grappled with at some time or other, and I think that that's kind of the universality of the theme of this film. Is that I think most people will relate to it on that level, whether they accept or reject, or it's still it's interesting, and you couple that with the strange, sometimes inexplicable phenomena of crop circles, and it really is a story about faith, though, not so much about Martians, you know. Yeah, I've had some wild stuff happen. I mean, it's like, I remember being in a really horrible situation and it looked like certain death for sure. And I was doing, it's a long story. I was driving across the country. I was going from Adelaide to Sydney, and it's just a long flat road across the Hay Plain. You throw a brick on the accelerator and go to sleep, you know, and it's I was used to doing about 95 all the way across, and then you hit the Blue Mountains, of course, and you got to slow down because there's twists and turns. But if you go from 95 to like 25 or 30, it seems like you're crawling. And I got stuck behind this disgusting truck, and he was like belching his way diesely up the hill, you know. So I was behind him, and I just looking for a way to get past, but there were too many winding roads, and it was going up and up and up in the mountains, and it was getting higher and higher. And finally, I saw this straight stretch. It was about 400 yards or so of just straight before it hit another bend. So I thought, okay, now's the time. And I pulled out and just jammed on the gas and went for it. And there were signs all over the place saying, "Be careful of soft edges," and it was drizzling. And the wheel hit a soft edge, and on this side of the car was this kind of sheer rock wall that was all chopped out. And I started going into the rock wall in the mudslide, and the truck was just over here, and we were racing along, and on the other side was a sheer drop, right? It was just like down these, like through these ropes, and it was, And so to avoid going into the wall, I steered this way. The truck was there, and then I steered back to the wall because he was going to get me. And the distance was for the straight stretch was closing, and there was another truck coming the other way, right? So I just kind of looked up, and there was these two trucks closing, and I was out of control in the middle. And the last thing I saw before I covered up my head was just massive gum tree just sticking out from the side of just before you went over the lip of the cliff there, was just going to hit right on me. And I swear it was no more than like 15 feet from when I just closed my eyes and covered up my head, let go of the steering wheel because the steering wasn't doing me any good. It was out of control. And I felt these big bumps and crunches and stuff, and I sort of like lifted my head up, and the front wheels were hanging over the precipice, still spinning. And I had that big gum tree that I saw was crushed up against one door, and there was a sapling on the other door, and they'd caught me in the middle from going over the side, and the two trucks went. So it was one of those, I wasn't going to get out of there alive deals, but I managed to like not get dead. So I sort of see some things like that, like miracles, you know. Yeah, I do believe in God. I think that, hey, look, there better be something greater than me out there, or we're all in trouble. If I'm God, we're all in trouble. So and so I do. I would and if there is no God, why am I here? Why am I not invading other countries and ruling the world? What's to stop me? If there's nothing to say I can't. And the other thing is, as far as the church goes and that stuff, every institution is capable of being corrupted. There is no, I think that those people, that's a heinous crime against children, and I think that those people should be really punished hard so that, to ensure that others don't do that. I think that the penalty should be big, and there's no excuse for it. It's absolutely deplorable. But that still doesn't, that's human error. That still doesn't sort of shake any belief that I have that there's a God, you know. Nothing's ever going to go to plan, is it? Ever. And but that's the mistake, you know. I mean, that's really a lack of humility. I think you have to be prepared to think that most of it's out of your hands anyway, and prepared to yield it. And that's where humility starts, I guess. I'm not very good at humility, so, you know, I have a struggle there. I don't think I ever had a crisis in faith, really. You know, I was raised in a certain way. I walked away from it for a long time, you know, from about 17 to 35, you know, that's a good, you know, 18 years of like, you know, sort of wandering in the wasteland kind of thing. But I eventually kind of like, you know, you mature and you start pondering these questions, and I came back to some of that stuff. Yeah, I was raised Catholic, but, you know, big family, you know, go to Mass on Sundays, you know, learn all the rules, all this kind of stuff. And my dad was really into it because he had actually at one time was in the seminary. He was going to be a priest before he decided to get out and just be a normal guy. He so that we got a really good grounding in it from when we were little kids. And of course, you know, when you're 17 and you're nuts, you know, and you know, I just didn't have much time for it. Also, the institution, as far as I could see, was going bogus and haywire, and I certainly haven't brought my kids up with the institution that calls itself the Catholic Church now. Not to. I just don't have much faith in the institution. But that's, again, as I said, that's just loaded with human error, and but I think adhering to the you know, the principles involved in it are, you know, maintain those things like don't kill anybody, don't steal anything, don't, you know, and there are consequences for your actions, and you can actually be fulfilled by helping other people, you know, stuff like that. So it's, I mean, those are good things for everyone to learn, I think, and Western society is based on those principles. Fortunately, otherwise we'd still be scalping each other, you know.